Everybody, we've got another Jackajay swan. This is the dead ringer, twin sister to one I did last week for Tamika. So I've got it to the stage where it's all the old's out, got rid of the dinosaur system, and we'll be starting to put in the Jackajay. A few people were asked to do a little video on the install, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'll get stuck into it. So here we have the front. That's where the winch goes. It's out, gone. I've just got to give this a bit of a vacuum, clean it up, make it nice and clean. You don't see it, but what the heck, we might as well make it as nice as we possibly can. Band's in great condition actually, 2013 model. As you can see, I pull everything out because it's just easier. The drive tubes are too long to get in through the seat. So this is the rear. It's down to the driver's side rear. A little tight in there, but it's not too bad for working in. So there we have it. We'll get into it. We'll start by fitting the spring guides. These are totally enclosed, a bit different to the old Jackajay ones. Screwed down to the floor, various points to screw into. So we'll get those four in and then we'll go from there. Cheers. So here we have some of the components installed. I just do a dry run, make sure the spring guides up into the wall are nice and straight, or relatively straight to the actual drive tube. And here we have the back. We've got the driver's side rear yellow, passenger side rear blue. So I just set them in there, get them nice and straight, then I screw down the spring guides into the walls. And here we have the front, similar at the front, get them sitting nice and straight. Even if they're really close, it doesn't really matter. Main thing is to try and keep them as straight as possible into the wall, which is what I've done here. So we shall keep going. We'll screw down the spring guides into the walls, and then we'll get the new springs out, fit them up inside the wall, put them into the drive tubes and go from there. Cheers. We've screwed down the spring guides. We've actually put the spring up inside the old lifting arms. They're going to be changed to the Jackajay after I do this install. And then what we do is we push each one as far as we can outwards so that it goes up hard against the lifting point inside the lifting arm, or the mast as we now call them. So then we go around and we screw down those points there. We screw down the motor, and there's the other spring on the other side. These come pre-greased, which is fantastic. Not quite as messy as what they are when they're not. So then we'll go around and do the front, and we'll also wander up the back. And I've done the same up the back. I'm just going to get these nice and straight. Push the spring out. Push the guide, the floor guide, hard up against, so that the new springs are up inside the old lifting arms, the dinosaurs, which are going to be changed to Jackajay as mentioned. So I'll go ahead and do that. So here we have the drive tubes, floor tubes all screwed down, motor screwed down. This is obviously the front, all nicely, try and get them as parallel as possible, and up, as I mentioned earlier, push them hard up into the wall, and that's where they stay. So that's the front, and here we have the back. Those power cords there I actually had to move over, which is no big deal. There's plenty of room. Again, pushed out hard as we can up into the wall and screwed down with 8-gauge screws through metal. they're not going to go anywhere. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's just about morning tea time, so I might go and have a brew and then come back and we can start on wiring. The fun bit, running the wire through all these cupboards, which is not too bad. Behind the fridge, be around the battery, and then into here. Then we've got to put the control module inside the front boot, so we'll probably go in through that little hole there. That's where the winch was, and we can sneak up inside there and put the controller box. So it's going along nicely. So got all the cables run. We just got to connect them all up, and then tie them down with some cable ties and make them look nice and neat. That's the rear. Whoop. And here we have the front. Got the battery cables set up ready to connect. And again, just got to tidy up the cabling, which we'll do shortly. As you can see, I've run all the cables through where the winch hole went, and I've cut a hole in the plastic wall inside the boot, and we've mounted the controller. So here we are, all wired in and clipped down. Like to try and make it as neat as possible. Got to look good as well as work. Hell. Anyway, that's the back. Looks all good. Everything's nice and tight. And then if we go down to the front's the same. Got it all nice and neat. You really can't buggerise this up because you physically can't get some of these together, because like this one's a triangular shape, and the one over here, as well as being coloured green, whereas the one over here's actually square. So you physically can't stuff those up. That's the drive to the motor. These are the limit switches. One is wire slightly longer than the other, so the longer one goes to the lower one and the shorter one goes to the higher one. Again, all colour coordinated, so you really can't go too far wrong up the other end. Obviously it's green because it's a green drive. Triangular motor connection. Really can't go wrong. Down the track, maintenance wise, you'll see that little bit of spring there. That just needs a bit of grease every 12 months. I just use some bearing grease, whatever. There's actually a small pot of grease that goes with the kit, so that'll last probably a few years. And the only other thing you need to check is on where the drive couple is. This little Allen key here, that's a 2.5mm, just to give it a bit of a test to make sure it's nice and tight. You don't have to worry about the other one, that's factory done, so that's not a problem. So you just got to do all four. So that's the front. There's the spring. So yeah, and then again the coupling joint, the one that goes to the drive shaft, not the one that goes to the motor. And similarly up the other end. And in the Swan, this is underneath the settee for the table. Again, this one here, not this one. And as you can see, access is pretty easy even with the seats in. You just lift up the seat. So a bit of grease on that one as well. And down the other end, this one's a little bit hard to get to. A little bit of grease on that. This is the right rear. This obviously has the fold-up cupboard, for want of a better word. With it down, you can get in there to see it, but it might be a bit hard to reach. I use a paintbrush with a bit of grease on it. You might be able to lean over and do that. And then the cover that goes on here, in between, obviously your motor's there, so you can get to your coupling there. Just a matter of lifting the top off and doing that one there. Relatively easy. And while we're down here, we'll have a look. Bottom of the lift of the mast is screwed those two black screws are screwed to the mast, and these are obviously screwed to the frame. These will get replaced when we do the lifting, the jacker masts, which I'm sure I'll be able to get a little bit of a video of that as well. So that concludes all the wiring and the install. And if we go back down the other end, all I've got to do is hook up the battery. So I've got the battery here. Obviously you've got a red and a black, red positive, black negative, and there's a fuse in there as well. This will be all inside, so to get to the fuse you need to take the top of the battery cover off. Battery sits in there nicely. It's just a standard deep cycle lead acid, which works fine, absolutely works fine. So we'll get that hooked up and we should be able to instigate lift to hold it up on the jacker system, which would be great. Anyway, we'll keep on going.